Islam is increasingly developing in Denmark, a country in the Scandinavian region, Northern Europe. If in 1980 the number of Muslims was only around 30,000 or 0.6% of the country's entire population, now the number of Muslims has reached 280,000 people, almost 5% of the total population of Denmark. The number of mosques also increased drastically to around 170 mosques. Let's watch the video in the Islam in History channel.
Islam in Denmark, being the country's largest minority religion. According to minority rights groups, it is estimated that Muslims number around 280,000 people, making up nearly 5% of the total population of Denmark. This Viking country has 6 million population. This figure has been increasing for the last several decades, due to multiple immigration waves involving economic migrants and asylum seekers. In the 1980, the number of Muslims in Denmark was only around 30,000, or 0.6% of the total population. In the 1970s, Muslims arrived from Turkey, Pakistan, Morocco and the former Yugoslavia, mainly Bosnia, to work. In the 1980s and 90s, the majority of Muslim arrivals were refugees and asylum seekers from Iran, Iraq, Somalia and Bosnia. In addition, some ethnic Danes have converted to Islam. In 2017, close to 3,800 Danish were converts to the Islam. According to a survey by Aarhus University, the number of mosques is on a steady upward trajectory, rising from 115 in 2006 to 170 in 2017, an increase of 40%. The first mosque was constructed in 1967. The Danish Muslim population has been increasing for the last several decades. Sociologist Brian Arley Jacobsen at Copenhagen University has estimated that in 1980, close to 30,000 Muslims lived in Denmark, i.e. 0.6% of the population. According to figures reported by the BBC in 2005, about 280,000 Muslims lived in Denmark at the time, 4.8% out of a population of 5.6 million. Denmark is a Nordic country in the south-central portion of Northern Europe. Denmark is the southernmost of the Scandinavian countries, lying southwest and south of Sweden, south of Norway, and north of Germany, with which it shares a short border, Denmark's only land border. Danish historian Jorgen Beck Simonsen recorded, the encounter between Denmark and the Muslim world date back to the Middle Ages, when the Danish military participated in the Crusades, to take control of Jerusalem from Muslim rule. One of the first Danish converts to Islam was Knud Holmboe, a journalist and writer of Desert Encounter in 1931, in which he detailed his first-hand account of the Libyan genocide by Italian colonials. Knud Valdemar Gilding Holmboe was born on April 22, 1902 at Horsens, Denmark, was a Danish journalist, author and explorer. He converted to Islam in 1929, changing his name to Ali Ahmed El-Gassiri. As a journalist he covered the atrocities of the Italian colonialism in Libya. He described the concentration camps into which Italian colonial powers forced the Muslims and Bedouin and where torture, humiliation, and famine were rife. Holmboe was murdered in Aqaba in October 1931, on his way to Mecca for Hajj. Some suspect that Italian intelligence officials, connected to the regime of Benito Mussolini, conspired in his death. An 1880 Danish census recorded 8 Muslims in Denmark. Large-scale immigration from Muslim countries began in the 1950s. Due to the expansion of Denmark's post-war economy and increase in industrialization in the 1950-1960s, a large number of immigrants migrated to the country from the highly Muslim-populated nations of Yugoslavia, Turkey, Pakistan, and North Africa. This period was the first wave of large-scale Muslim immigration to Denmark. In the 1980s, a second wave of Muslims immigrated to Denmark, mainly from Iran, the Middle East, and Africa. Many of these immigrants were seeking political asylum. The asylum seekers comprise about 40% of the Danish Muslim population. Freedom of religion is guaranteed by the Constitution of Denmark, but the Church of Denmark enjoys certain privileges, such as state subsidies, that other religious groups in the country do not. As of 2013, 23 different Muslim communities are recognized as acknowledged religious communities, giving them certain tax benefits. According to polls among Muslims in Denmark conducted in 2006 and 2018, religiosity shows an escalation over time, whereas 37% Muslims prayed 5 times a day in 2006, by 2018 this number had increased to 50%. This was contrary to expectations, that Muslims had been expected to conform to mainstream Danish society, where not many people are devoted to religion. The possible cause of the trend, according Jacobsen, was the construction of 20 to 30 new mosques in the 10 years. Over 70% of Muslims in Denmark are Danish citizens, and the majority are first or second generation of immigrants. Muslims are unevenly distributed around Denmark, with the majority concentrated in major cities. An estimated 47.4% of Danish Muslims live in Greater Copenhagen, 9.4% in Aarhus, and 5.5% in Odense. The largest Muslim ethnic group in Denmark is Turks, which accounts for 22.2% of all Danish Muslims, followed by Iraqis, 10.2%, Lebanese, 9.5%, Pakistanis, 8.7%, Somalis, 7.3%, and Afghanistan, 6.3%. In recent years, there have also been political debates and controversies regarding the integration of Muslims into Danish society, including issues such as the wearing of the hijab and halal slaughter. Experts argue that the origins of this debate stem from a problem that is under-recognized in the mainstream political spectrum: Islamophobia. The European Islamophobia Report 2022 named Denmark as the most vulnerable country for Muslims, along with France and Austria. According to Amna Hassani, research director at the Center for Muslim Rights in Denmark, Muslims on the lowest rung of the social and economic ladder, as well as refugees, face discrimination not only due to the rising anti-Muslim sentiments, but also stricter citizenship. Hassani continued, a 2018 report by the Danish National Police indicates that out of 112 hate crimes that were religiously motivated, 56% were Muslim victims. That discrimination does not only occur against immigrant Muslims, but also Danish-origin converts to Islam. One of them is Imam Abdul Wahid Peterson, a white citizen. It really hurt me, being an isolated citizen in my own country. Since I converted to Islam, it has been easy to find people who hate Islam, he said. He embraced Islam in 1982, and is known as a pioneer of Islamic schools in Denmark. Simul Matthias, a Danish who converted to Islam in January 2021, rubbished the claims of certain Danish politicians, who have publicly said that there is no space for Islamophobia in the country. Islamophobia is a reality. Dismissing that as if it is not there is untrue, said Matthias, a truck driver who live in Aarhus City. One of the important figures in the spread of Islam in Denmark was Abdus Salam Madsen, 1908 to 2007. He was the first person to translate the Quran into Danish in 1966. He also wrote many pamphlets about Islamic teachings for native Danes. For decades, mosques in Denmark have only used ordinary buildings, without distinctive architecture and ornaments. However, in 2014, for the first time in Denmark a mosque was built equipped with a minaret. It is located in the Danish capital, Copenhagen, called the Hamad bin Khalifa Civilization Center, HKCC, mosque, whose construction was funded by the Qatari government. Not only the mosque, there are also public facilities, such as meeting rooms, a mini theater and a fitness center, within the 6,700 square meter complex. The Hamad bin Khalifa Mosque is in the Norrebro district, which is known to be inhabited by many Muslim residents. In the area around the mosque there are many halal restaurants and butcher shops, as well as convenience stores selling various products from the Middle East and Asia. Hopefully Islam will continue to develop in Denmark even amidst increasingly widespread Islamophobic activities.